What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I wanted to sit down and finish up all of these questions I had from my 4,000 subscribers giveaway contest. I feel like I should be able to knock out the rest of them today if I just sit here and bust it out. Might be a little slightly longer episode if I attempt to do that. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's quite a few, but we're gonna work through them. We're gonna see how far I get. If it's starting to get stupidly long, I'll finish up the rest of them on another episode, and it's no big deal. First of all, just checking in with you guys. Hope everything's well. Disc Golf Nerd Stamped Custom Discs are available. Just posted another update today with some of the stock that I have left, or all the stock that I have left. Appreciate anybody who's already purchased one. I have not been playing a ton of golf lately. I'm still testing a bunch of plastic. Plenty more reviews coming up. I am still going to continue trying to do reviews every Friday is my plan, so we'll see if I can keep that going. I still have a couple, and I have to kind of keep them in reserve to make that work, and I got to continually test and finish up testing plastic to make it happen, but I think I can do it, and at least throughout the summer. It might be tough to do that all year, but I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can, and even if I can't do it every Friday, I will probably still post disc reviews on Fridays. So Friday should be the day you'll see my reviews pop up. Fresh Plastic Friday. That's what I'm going for. If anybody has any ideas for discs they'd like me to check out, or more importantly, if anybody has any ideas for like beginner tip videos that I might be able to make and help people out with, I would love to be able to do that. I've kind of run a little bit dry on ideas for that, which is why I've been doing mostly reviews and then podcasts lately, but I still would like to be able to help folks out. And if there are any topics that you're confused about that I haven't addressed already, please let me know. Maybe I can put together a video and help you and other folks out with that. And if you're interested and you're finding this podcast, you don't know much about my channel, head over to my YouTube page here and just kind of click through the playlist. It's all kind of broken down in there. There's a disc review playlist. There is a disc golf beginner tips and information playlist. Disc golf DIY, where I show you some little home projects you can do for disc storage and other things. And all the podcasts should be arranged in their own playlists, and some of those are beginner tip and information oriented. So hopefully there's lots of different content out there for you guys to check out, and hopefully you will enjoy what you find. And more importantly, hopefully it'll help you out. That's really the goal here. I try to hopefully be entertaining, but mostly it's about information and helping you guys be best equipped to get out there and attack the course. Without further ado, let's get into the questions. Starting off with my friend Anthony Davis. Shout out to you, Anthony. It's been a lot of fun throwing discs with you lately. He is a local guy, and we've been hooking up for a bunch of rounds of late, and I've been having a lot of fun having a disc golf buddy again who's local and wants to get out and throw. Congrats on 4K. Thank you. If you had to build a new bag, what would be the first 3 molds you choose? You can't pick from anything you currently throw. Wow, that's an interesting one for sure. Okay. So I can't pick any of the stuff I have in my bag currently. I'd have to kind of go back to old molds that I used to throw that I no longer do. And the first 3 molds I go with. Let's see. Well, I would probably go back to either the Buzz or the MVP Axis for my mid-range. I'm just going to say it's a 3 mold like starter pack mid-range putter and driver. Let's keep it a little more simple. So for the mid-range, I would probably go back to the Eclipse Axis. Really great disc. The only reason I don't still carry one is that I can fill a lot of the same shots with my compasses and now with the Gobi. And overall, I've just been really enjoying the Latitude made plastic. It's extremely consistent, and I like the feel. I like the flights, and I just have a bunch of those molds that I'm really enjoying. So I've been sticking with those. As far as a putter, that would be interesting. That's hard to say. That honestly might be an MVP mold as well. I might go back to the anode. I had good success with the soft anodes for a while, but I do prefer the Jawbreakers magnets that I'm using now. That's a difficult one to say. I have been testing the Deputy, and it's got a very similar flight to the magnet in terms of putting, where it's very straight, and if you throw it off the tee, it naturally turns quite a bit. So that would be probably a pretty good, just straight ahead replacement for my putters, either that or maybe a West Side Swan. It's a very magnet type disc, so I bet you a blend Swan would probably slot right in, no problem, and fly very similar and get the job done for me. Also a good disc. And for drivers, something I don't have in my bag now that I always really liked would probably be like a Pro D Force. I really like the Pro D Forces. I might go back to Forces as drivers, because if I have a bunch of different Pro D ones that are broken into different levels, I can get a lot of different variations to the flight, and then I throw a Z Force in there for headwinds and overstable shots. It's a pretty solid system. So that's my answer right now. Andy Impin says, what type of plastic is your personal favorite? I believe I've answered this one already. I would have to say Latitude 64 Opto plastic. It's the same as Lucid plastic from Dynamic Discs. Overall, that's my favorite plastic type for mid-ranges and drivers. I also have an Opto Pure that I just put back in the bag to test, that I've had kind of an on-again, off-again relationship with that disc. It's a good flyer. So yeah, I really like that mold, or that plastic type rather, but I probably wouldn't want to use it exclusively just because I prefer using a different plastic blend for my putter. But if I had to pick one for everything, I'd probably go Opto just because I like it so much for the mids and the drivers. Diamond Modify asks, what is the best advice you were ever given pertaining to the sport? Thanks for the chance to win. Wow. Best advice ever given? Man, that's really hard to say. I would say I was never really given all that much advice. I kind of figured out a lot of this stuff on my own. And, I've definitely taken in other YouTube stuff, and the old Discraft Clinic videos were very helpful for me when I was just starting out. There's a video there that actually Eagle McMahon just posted a video basically reiterating an old Discraft Clinic concept that Mark Ellis put out there that I always really liked, and that was to start your putting practice where you're making the majority of the putts, whatever range that is. I don't do a lot of practice putting, but even just when I warm up for a round, if there's a practice basket and we're warming up on the basket, I'm not going to step out to 40, 45 feet and then just try to make those. I'm going to get within 20, maybe 20 feet where I feel like I'm going to hit most of them and just hit them. I just want that feeling of hitting them dead center, dead center, dead center. That feels really good, and it provides that confidence, and I think that is much better than practicing from farther out where you're almost practicing missing putts. Whatever the distance range it is that you need to be inside of to make those putts, that's what you should be practicing. Even if that's 15 feet, 10 feet. If you make the majority of those, practice from there, and then start moving back until you can make the majority of the ones from a little bit farther back. And if you get outside of that, where you're making 2 out of 10 or something like that, definitely moving in to the point where you're just jamming those putts. It will build confidence, and it's a really helpful. This is interesting. Dusty Decker, basically, same question. What's the one piece of advice you've gotten made the biggest difference in your game? I'm going to throw out another one here, since I kind of gave on the last one, I gave a different one. There's a video also on YouTube featuring, let me make sure I'm still recording, featuring Dixon Jowers, where he states that an important piece of advice that he was given early on is to try to keep his lead shoulder down, right? So if your lead shoulder is pointed up, you're naturally going to throw the disc up in the air. But if you have your lead shoulder slightly lower than your back shoulder when you're kind of pulling through, it will help come with a flat throw and keep it nice and low. That's a big help for me, to help me kind of prevent from throwing those big high stalled hyzers that so many beginners end up throwing a lot of. I like that one a lot. Daniel Schoonover, what is your favorite practice routine? I really don't have one. I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I don't have a basket, nor do I have a backyard, so I don't do a lot of practice putting, or really any practice putting outside of warming up for tournaments, or not even tournaments, but warming up for rounds. And so I really don't have a practice routine, although when I get out in the field, I just try to throw straight shots is mostly what I work on. Occasionally I will throw different angles, but I feel like I'm pretty confident throwing on hyzer. I will do more anhyzer releases during field work because I have more trouble with those, or I will just try to get my disc to go really straight all the way. Regardless of what that disc is, I will try to get the longest, straightest flight out of it when I'm out doing like field work. But I don't really have a practice routine. But if I were, and this is something that I definitely want to get into, and this winter I will get a basket and I will be doing putting practice much more often. I'm going to do exactly what I just mentioned before. I'm going to get inside 15, 20 feet, and I'm going to just try to make putts over and over and consistently hit those putts in the chains right where I want them to drop and just feel that confidence and visualize that happening over and over again. Bill Hayes just says, congrats. Thank you, Bill. Garstein says, for between distances, do you find you disc up or disc down for the shot? Assuming no crazy OB to mess you up. So for between distances. Oh, so if I could reach it with a putter or a mid-range, will I kind of go for the mid-range? And yeah, I will usually throw the slowest disc that'll get me there unless I feel like I really got to mash it. You know, if I have to throw my putter for almost as far as I possibly can to reach there, I will just throw a smooth shot with mid-range and let it do the work. And then same thing with the mid-range. If I have to really try to rip on a mid-range to get it where it needs to go, I may throw a driver and just nice and smooth to get it to just stand up and do the work and get me there. Jason Withy, I'm not really sure. I'm going to say Withy. Jason Withy. Whether your disc review format is different from most that I've ever, in that I've never seen any test flight footage on your reviews. Why not? What is something you would like to do in future reviews that you haven't done yet? Okay, we addressed this many times on the channel. I'm going to briefly go through some reasons why I don't throw discs in my disc reviews. A, it would make it much more difficult for me to do the amount that I've done. It would take way more time, and I don't care enough to put it in there. B, I have absolutely no interest in being on camera. I like the information and my voice and just the information to be the star of the show. The disc is the star of the show, not my poor form, not my form that's changed over the years, not my inconsistency in my throwing, not my body. None of that stuff is what I want the review to be about. The review's about the disc, and I try to give you guys more of an overview of what you can expect from it, keeping in mind that everyone throws differently, so it is unfair for me to say, hey, this is how this disc flies for everybody who's going to throw it, based purely on my throwing ability. I could take somebody who has a bigger arm than me, and they will have vastly different flight characteristics out of the disc. I could take somebody who doesn't know how to throw as well as me, and they're going to get a different flight out of the disc as well. Therefore, I talk about the plastic, the feel, the overall shape. I compare it to other molds that I've tested, and I try to give you guys a basic overview of what it's going to fly like in general. Another reason I don't do it is that I've done test footage for it, and I'm not happy with the way the footage comes out, and I don't feel like you can see the disc very well. And if you don't see me throw, but the disc is just flying, it's very hard to track, and the whole thing is just a big mess. I like doing the reviews the way I do them. People seem to like them. I make them for those people. Some people take major offense to it and give me a bunch of grief about it. They can feel free to go watch any other disc review they want. There's 8 more billion videos on YouTube. Go watch any of the other ones. What is something that you have that you would like to do in future reviews that you haven't done yet? That's a good question. I would always love to find somebody who's got a really consistent middle of the range kind of throw, that can throw the angles very consistently, that will come out with me and let me film them. Therefore, I can zoom in. They can be on camera with decent enough form to accurately demonstrate the discs. I can zoom in on the disc as it flies and get quality footage. But trying to figure out somebody who's able to do that enough that I could do it for all my reviews is next to impossible. So just not something that can happen. But stay tuned. There may be a special surprise coming up for certain Trilogy disc reviews. That's all I'm going to say right now. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Alex asks, if you could only choose one plastic type for all your discs, including putters, which would you choose? Even if you carry molds from different manufacturers, they would all have to be the same plastic. I already answered that. It would be optoplastic. Jerry Cathy Worcester, what are the 5 most important things you've learned about choosing the right, in quotes, the right disc? Okay, tailor it to your arm speed. If you're throwing it and it's not behaving the way it's intended to, it probably means that it's a little bit fast for you and your arm speed. So go with slower stuff that you can maximize its flight if that's what's needed. If you have a big arm, you need to go with some more stable or maybe higher speed stuff in order to prevent it from flipping more than you want it to, based on the fact that you're putting more energy and spin on the disc. Comfort is very important as well. When choosing the right disc, having it feel good in the hand is definitely an important thing. It doesn't seem like it should be that important, but if you have a disc that every time you grab it and you go to throw it, it feels kind of wonky in your hand and you just don't feel good with it in your hand, that's probably a good indication that it's not a good disc for you to throw. You're going to be thinking about that when you step up to the tee, and you're not going to be focusing on hitting the shot. Sometimes I have those discs that even just trying to get them in my grip and feel confident when I'm on the tee pad just feels awkward. That's not a good thing. You want it to feel good. You want it to feel right in your hand, and just get that grip locked in, and then you can focus on the throw and not the feel of the disc in your hand or trying to get a good grip on it. That's not a good thing. Another thing you want to, let's see, 5 things. I need a couple more. Another thing you definitely want to think about when choosing the right disc is having the right color. I tend to prefer orange, pink, white, and bright yellow, kind of neon day glow green and yellow colors, because there's nothing worse than looking for plastic as far as I'm concerned. Dark colors, dark greens, or just anything that's going to blend into the environment is not great. Orange tends to be the best, but I would say pink is probably the overall best color for a golf disc. Bright pink is very easy to see in all conditions. Yellow and orange are typically pretty good, but if you get into the woods in, say, the Northeast or somewhere that has a lot of leaves on the ground, they can get rough real quick. So you want to keep that in mind. Also, even when the leaves, could just be certain types of foliage. Yellow sometimes can be rough to find in there. Let's see, a couple more things about choosing the right disc. Usually I like to try to find something that's very stock and just basic. I don't believe it makes much sense to prefer or learn to prefer throwing discs that are difficult to obtain, whether those are out of production or just a really specific run. I also don't believe in throwing manufacturers where you have to know every single run to make sure you get the ones that fly right, because there's big inconsistencies between disc to disc. It's another reason why I like Discraft and Latitude 64, because their discs are very consistent from run to run. I have you'll see slight variances, of course, but they're pretty close. You're not going to see huge differences for the most part. It does happen, but it's not as prevalent as some other manufacturers. And also, in terms of the right disc, it's definitely a personal thing. It's an individual thing. It's not going to be the same for everybody. Don't watch it in the bag with your favorite pro and think that all those discs are going to work the same for you. Again, you got to tailor them to your arm speed and all that kind of stuff. I also think that it's important to have a disc that looks nice. It's kind of weird, but I like to have discs that are in nice colors with good stamps that I like, and that just look good in my bag and stuff. And I like all the bright colors, and I don't know, something about that. I dig it. Sometimes the stamp looks really cool, and you just dig it. It has that little extra special thing about that disc, and I dig that. I hope that was 5. I think it was. Frank Bennett, how can I make putting practice not so mind-numbingly boring? Any tips? Wow. Okay. I would say do like little challenges and games for yourself. Track it so you can see progress, because that's helpful as well. But really, I mean, putting practice is probably going to be kind of boring. If you have a friend that you can putt with and play horse and that sort of thing to kind of keep it interesting, that would probably be a good thing. I've had a good time playing just horse or putt or whatever you want to do to just kind of keep it interesting. And then also try with obstacles. You know, if you have a backyard and you got some trees, try to do some straddles out around the tree from different distance ranges and that sort of thing, and kind of break it up. But again, what goes back to what I talked about, it's weird how some of these questions like correlate to each other when I'm reading through. It's kind of interesting, but it goes right back to what we talked about earlier, where in general with practice putting, keep it close and keep it where you're hitting putts. That's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Eric Antaya, congrats, mate. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Eric. Do you ever plan on doing any tournament coverage someday? No, I don't think that's my role here on YouTube. I would, though. I'll throw this out there now. I would like to eventually attempt providing commentary with somebody who does do tournament coverage. If anybody wants somebody to try to overlay some coverage or some commentary on a tournament video that you put together, maybe you're just not confident speaking like that and you don't want to do it, I would love to take a swing at it. I may do a terrible job. People may hate it. There's no real way to tell until I try, but I would really like to do that. It looks really fun, and I think I could be decent at it at least. So yeah, I doubt it's going to happen, but it could happen. That's something I would be interested in. But in terms of me starting to like actually film tournaments, I don't think that's for me. One of the major issues with that is that I don't breathe very well through my nose. So especially when I'm not like paying attention to my breathing and I'm not like talking, I'm just like filming something, I breathe out of my mouth and you can hear it. So it's not a good idea. I get kind of offended when people like call people mouth breathers as though like there's some option there. It's like I can't really breathe out of my nose very well, so I have to breathe out of my mouth so I can breathe. It's pretty standard stuff. I don't know how that kind of became. Yeah, people. There's kind of like a connotation with mouth breathing that's like people who breathe out of their mouth are somehow less intelligent. I've basically no idea where that correlation comes from. Some people just don't breathe very well out of their nose. Period. That's all. That all has nothing to do with my intelligence. Bill Burr always says that shit, like mouth breather, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, man, that's weird. He's pretty ignorant about a lot of stuff, though. Tyler Rangel, how long have you been playing? Probably about 11 years or so since I moved to Portland, Oregon. Playing seriously for about 10 or so. But not that serious. I mean, I'm still just a casual player. I just like to get out there and throw plastic with friends and do what I can. What do you do? N4B1S says, what do you use to work out scrapes on plastic that skips off of cement? Some sort of sandpaper. I've heard of people using very fine grit sandpaper or like a sanding block or something, like a little foam sanding block, or maybe like a nail kind of sanding, like an emery board type of thing. I've never done that though. I don't really play a lot of courses that have cement to skip off of per se, and I also tend to throw drivers that are in like optoplastic that is pretty solid stuff. So I don't really need to. I've never, so far, haven't really seen the need to do that. If I get a road rash spot on the disc, I'll just grab it in another spot on it and let it fly. It's not going to interact with my hand, so it really makes no difference to me per se. But I've heard of people. I think Nate Sexton said on an In the Bag that he keeps a little like foam sanding block for that sort of thing. You have to be careful with that though, because if you go too far with it, you will make the disc illegal. So I would be careful with that, and I would probably look up more specifics in terms of the rule book on what you're actually allowed to do if you're a tournament player. Wolf Hunter 181, tips or advice on disc trajectory upon release or simply aim. I watch a lot of videos on driving tips, including grip and body mechanics, but haven't seen that much in the way of practicing tips for not releasing too late or too early. Keep up the good work. Well, I hear you on that. That can be tricky. A lot of people talk about how to add distance, but not necessarily how to get your timing perfect. I'm going to defer you to new friend of the channel, Danny Lindahl, that I've been kind of working with a little bit. We did a podcast together, and hopefully have some other things in the work with Danny. He has a ton of different form throwing advice videos out there. I will fully admit I have not watched a lot of them. I've watched some of his content for sure, but I'm sure he's hasn't watched a ton of mine either. You know, we just kind of started to interact a little bit, but I'm sure he has a video somewhere on timing and release points in there. And if not, hit him up and ask him. Maybe he'll throw one together and help you out with that, because I am not so much the form or body mechanics kind of guy. I'm much more in the plastic side of things, the strategy and overall basic information about discs and disc golf rather than I am dialing in your form. Your form's something that I'm always working on. For me, though, I would say just it will be easier for you to release when you want to if you slow your whole run up down. Don't try to run real fast into your shot, and don't try to be fast throughout your shot. Nice and slow and steady all the way through, and then with that acceleration right at the end of the throw. If you're really fast throughout your throw, you're probably going to end up taking energy off of it, and you're also more likely to spray it left or right than you are if you just throw a nice, smooth, controlled throw that's pretty slow and steady throughout. All right. D-Champ, what's the most memorable ace you've gotten? Probably I don't know. I've only had 3, and it's kind of becoming an issue for me, honestly, because it's been several years since I've gotten one. I've hit chains and or basket multiple times since then. I just can't get one to stick for some reason. My first one was pretty memorable. It was at Rockwood Central Park here in Gresham, pretty close to where I live nowadays. The disc kind of turned over, and then it faded back in, and we lost it behind a tree for just a split second, and then it slammed chains. That was pretty amazing. Went straight in. That was really fun. I have no skip aces. They've all been straight into the chains. My second one was quite memorable as well. It was with a ESP Meteor, lightweight 165 gram ESP Meteor. I threw it trying to hyzer flip it straight at the basket. It actually stood up into a smooth hyzer all the way and went straight into the chains, which was pretty sick. It's a relatively short shot, but it's pretty technical as well. And it's a cool course, Rooster Rock East in the woods to get an ace on. And then we were playing match play, something that I haven't done in a while. It was a lot of fun, though. I should get back to it. Me and my buddy would play match play, and we played 2 drives, best drive match play. It's a really fun format, especially if you want to throw some extra shots. If if your course doesn't have a lot of people waiting on you, you don't want to do this if there's a group behind you or anything like that. But if you have the course to yourself, or you're just willing to let people play through, 2 drives, pick your best drive, match play. You get a point if you get the better score on the hole. I think that's a lot of fun. So we were doing that. My first shot, ace. Second shot, I take a soft magnet and throw it on a hyzer flip, dead straight, comes in a little bit low, hits the pole. It was like so close to a back-to-back like double ace. So it would have been the coolest thing ever, but it was still pretty epic. And then the third one was on a relatively short hole, Vance hole 1. It was just kind of cool because we were there. I had like 5 buddies with me, a couple other people standing around. We're stretching, getting loose. I'm like, all right, we're ready. We're ready. Start the day. Yeah, let's go. All right, I'll start it off. Step up with a Super Color Buzz, my Hop Devil X Buzz, and first throw of the day, straight out of the gates. Soft hyzer, boom, straight in the chains. And it was hanging in the chains. It didn't even make its way into the basket. It was so into the heart of the chains it didn't even fall through. It was hanging in there. So that was pretty cool. Mazkuzu says, what is your coolest mini? I have 3 minis that sit right in front of me on my wall here in my in my living room, but in my little corner where my computer sits. Maybe I'll post a picture on Instagram of this little corner. We'll see. Maybe not. I have a few things on the wall here right behind my computer where I record all this stuff and do all my work on the channel. I have the first Disc Golf Nerd Dimax. I have a Warden from the first run of Disc Golf Nerd stamp discs. And then I have a DGN Dimax Mini with an alternate logo on it that Anthony from the Heiser Project made for me as well. I have a Whale Sax Mini, a Sparkle Champion Whale Sax Mini that I got from Tina when I first met her, 2016 Beaver State Fling. And then I have another custom Dimax Mini that's a picture of me and Ricky that I took a selfie with Ricky after he won the 2016 Beaver State Fling. And right below that is Rick's Disc Golf Pro Tour trading card. So I would probably say the little Ricky Mini is pretty cool. I don't know if I'd ever keep it on the course. It's just more of a little wall hanger memento from meeting Rick, because I'm such a big fan, and he was so cool. He remembered me from meeting me earlier in the week, and he's just a really, really nice guy when you see him off the course. He's great on the course too, but when he's in tournament mode, he's really intense. But anytime else you run into Ricky, he's extremely nice, jovial, very, very warm, just kind of goofy dude. He's really easy to get along with. But yeah, one of those three are probably my coolest mini that I have. I also, in terms of throwing minis, the mini buzzes are amazing, but I have the MVP Nano, and in terms of a true throwing mini, those fly really good, and that's probably what I use most on the course because it matches my golf bags. And this little purple Neutron Nano mini, that's usually what's in my pocket if I am using a mini, which doesn't always happen. Benjamin Feese, Feese. What is the most versatile driver you have tested? Thanks for the opportunity and keep up the good work. Versatility. Usually in terms of versatility as it pertains to golf discs, I'm usually thinking that means understable. It has to have some flip to it for it to be really versatile as far as I'm concerned. If it's something that always wants to go hard left and finish out to the left, there's only so versatile that's going to be. You can throw it on hyzers, you can throw it straight with a fade at the end, if you really power it up, or you can kind of flex it. Sure, you can do a couple different things with that, but a kind of straight, stable disc that has some natural turn to it is probably more versatile because you can get it to hold a strong turnover all the way. You can stall it on a hyzer. You can get it to go straight. You can get it to turn for a while and come back. There's lots of different things that you can do with that. One of the more versatile discs in my bag right now is the Fury. I'm throwing that on a lot of different understable lines, but it doesn't want to hyzer at the end of the flight very much, so it's not super versatile in that respect. In terms of the disc that I will throw on the most different angles, it's not a driver, but I use it for driving, is the Compass. The Compass is an extremely versatile disc that will fly a turnover start to finish. It will fly a hyzer start to finish. You can throw it flat with just a really straight line all the way. You can throw it with some power on a hyzer, let it kind of pop up and still finish on a hyzer. It's got a lot of different flights that it can fly, and I really like that disc a lot. Zebulon Holder, who got you into disc golf and why did you stick with it? My good friend Tyler. He was present for all three of my aces, and perhaps the fact that he doesn't come out and throw enough these days is why I can't get one now. Like, maybe I need to bug him more often and get him out on the course to try to get that next ace. He's like my personal big germ in a sense, but he's the one who got me into it. He took me out to Dabney State Park for my first round. He's an old friend from back in New York who moved out here to Oregon before me, and was part of the reason why I moved out here is because I had good friends like him already setting up roots here, and he took me out there. Why did I stick with it? Because it's great. I love the game. It brings in a lot of the mental aspects of traditional golf with a fraction of the cost. It incorporates hiking and sports, which are two things I really love. I love being in the woods and elevation, climbing up and down hills, and being among the forest and the quiet in the woods, and also throwing discs and hitting lines, and it's just amazing, hitting aces, long putts, puring lines that I want to hit exactly the way I want the disc to fly. It just feels great. It just feels good, and I love it. And then having all you guys that I interact with here on this channel and all the stuff that I keep building with this channel, it's beautiful. I love it, and have no intentions of stopping anytime soon. And then he also says, thanks for the giveaway. Giveaway is over, but you are welcome, Zebulon, and there are plenty more giveaways coming up soon. Trace Kiernowski says, what made you start this channel, and what made you start playing disc golf? Well, I just explained the disc golf thing with my buddy Tyler taking me out. What made me start this channel was I wanted to do an in the bag video. My first ever video is still live here on YouTube, and I think it says like Disc Golf Nerd first ever video or something like that. You can search it. It's my first in the bag. I was watching other people's in the bags and pro in the bags at that time, mostly Discraft ones. And even though they apparently just don't do that anymore for some reason, which is just really silly and could be a whole nother podcast about the complete lack of media from Discraft these days. It's kind of upsetting as someone who really likes their plastic and somebody who's like kind of promoted Discraft for most of the time I've had this channel. Almost every video that I do in terms of like suggesting discs, there's usually some Discraft plastic in there. They're always in the bag videos for the most part, and it's kind of upsetting that they don't put more effort into it these days. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that was it. I posted that, and then I also wanted to make a few videos about concepts that I didn't understand when I started, in an effort to hopefully help folks out with their game and hopefully pass on the information once I actually figured it out. And that's kind of still what I'm doing. Carl Windhausen says, congrats on 4,000. Thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate your support. I hope you enjoy your new Disc Golf Nerd Stamp custom discs. What's the most you've spent on a single disc? That's a good question. Not very much. Probably like $25 or so, maybe a little more for like I bought a couple of sweet dyed Envies from my friend John Perrin. I think those were $25 I maybe even just got one of those from him. And, that was cool. I just spent $25 on one of the new Ricky compasses, the kind of limited edition 2-time world champion Dymaxes that Dynamic Disc just put out for the signing party with Ricky. I just spent $45 on 2 discs the other day for that. I got 2 new Ricky compasses that are both signed for my collection. But yeah, I'm not one of these guys who's going to spend like $50 on an old Firebird or something like that for the bag. Again, correlating back to what I said earlier, I like to throw stock stuff, and not into that whole deal. Disc Ninja S. What situation would you use an understable or overstable disc in? Well, the obvious answer is if I need it to go left, I'm going to throw overstable. Into the wind, I'm going to throw overstable. If I need it to skip, I'm going to go overstable. Understable, I tend to throw a lot of discs that have some degree of understability to them, because I like to throw on a slight hyzer and let the disc pop up and turn to get me extra distance and fly on the lines that I want. But most of the time, if I'm throwing something understable, I want it to either hyzer flip dead straight with no real fade, or I'm trying to get it to turn to the right, or it's a tailwind. Jonathan Mante, who would you want to be your partner in doubles? Ricky Wysocki, I mean, I don't even have to think about that one. Plenty of other guys I would love to play with, but Ricky Wysocki, definitely number one in terms of pros. In terms of like people that I know personally, friends, would be my buddy Devin. He is a solid competitor in all things that he does. He's the kind of guy that you want him on your team. When you're picking teams, you pick Devin first. He's not like he doesn't look like he's going to be like the best athlete in the world. He's not like he's real ripped or whatever, but he's just good at everything that he does to a certain degree. He's a great guitar player. He's extremely good at backyard games. He'll whoop your ass at croquet. He'll beat you at bocce ball. Just all that kind of stuff. If you have him on your team in soccer, he's going to go hard. He'll probably make some solid plays. And if he's on your team in disc golf, he'll throw some good lines. He's just a guy you want on your team. So yeah, I would definitely pick Devin out of my friends. But in terms of pros, it would be Ricky or maybe Big Germ. Paige Pierce would be really fun to have on a team. That would be really cool. Ryan Litwack, what's the rarest disc you have? That's a good question. Rarest disc that I have, probably, I have a Smashbox stamped Color Glow Rock 3 that was one of only a certain amount stamped up with that disc, but that's more of just a different stamp. I also have a kind of pre-Big Z stamp, super pearly Buzz OS I got at the Fly Mart at Portland Worlds. They said there was only like 200 of those made or something like that. That's probably a relatively rare disc in terms of what I have in my collection, but I don't have a whole lot really. I don't think there's anything too crazy in there. I have a couple of other cool things, but nothing else too rare. I have like a Protostar Rock 3. It's kind of a cool disc. You can see all those actually in my. I have a video about my little side like collector disc stash that I have hanging out. All right, how are we doing here? We're making good progress. I don't think I'm going to try to power through these. I'm talking really fast, and it's helping me get through these pretty quick. Let's keep moving for a little while here. Now I've gotten lost. Ryan Litwack, here we go. Make sure I'm still recording. About 40 minutes in. Yeah, let's keep the ball moving here. See what I can do. Todd Weichers the second says, What got you into disc golf? Answered that one. My buddy Tyler brought me out there, and the rest is history. James Fulp asks, I'm assuming all new players have a favorite company, and that company changes as the player gets better and their style evolves. When you started playing disc golf, what was your company of choice, and how did that change as you became more experienced? Well, that's a good question. Very interesting. Well, when I first started out, there was basically Discraft and Innova. That's why that's still my email address. That's what I threw when I started the channel. I made the first video I made was in the bag. I had Discraft and Innova in the bag. That's what I made for my YouTube channel. And it was after I stopped throwing Innova, for the most part. I have one Innova disc in the bag now. But at one point, I switched to a full Discraft bag, and that's when I rebranded as Disc Golf Nerd. But Discraft has been the company that I've been with for the majority of my playing time. I feel like I've always at least had some Discraft in the bag. They're the only company that I've ever had a full bag of, and it was probably because of their media and their beginner tips and stuff. All the clinic videos they had, all the in the bags that they had, got me into them. And you're seeing that same correlation with dynamic discs. Bobby and the whole media team, Anthony and all those guys in the media team over at Dynamic Discs are absolutely crushing it, and they're bringing in tons of beginners onto their squad and getting them into their plastic by putting out content. This goes back to what I talked about Discraft earlier, that I can't believe they've let it slip so bad that they have zero player in the bags, no disc reviews. I personally have more videos about Discraft discs than Discraft does. That's silly. That should not be what happens. Like, there's no way they should be outdone by me. That's hilarious. There's no reason for that to be the case. And I don't know. I wish they would do something about it, but it doesn't seem like it's much of something that they care about. But in terms of how that's changed as I've become more experienced, really just in testing a lot of other plastic, I found other stuff that I really like, namely Dynamic Discs and Latitude 64. My bag leans heavily towards Latitude 64 and Dynamic these days. Mostly Latitude. I have a bunch of Latitude molds in my bag right now. I feel pretty confident I could switch to all Trilogy right now, today, and be just fine with my bag because it's mostly there already. But yeah, I don't know if that really has anything to do with my personal throwing experience as much as my experience testing plastic and determining what stuff is really consistent, flies good, and has good feel and good plastic types. But I still feel as well that pretty much I could go make a full Innova bag. I could go to the Disc Golf Depot right now and pick out a full Innova bag and feel pretty confident in knowing what it's going to do. And I'm sure I could throw just as effectively as I can with the stuff that I currently throw with pretty much any manufacturer, given the time to kind of weed out a couple of molds and try out a couple things for a few slots that might be a little iffy. But for the most part, I feel like it's not really so much about the plastic you throw, much more about your personal skill level, although it definitely helps to have plastic you're confident in and that works well with your form. There's no doubt about that. So that's a good, interesting question, James. I appreciate that one. Nice. Let's see. Jack Evans, congratulations on 4K. Thank you, Jack. I will hold an entry for this one as I just won the last one. Oh, thank you, Jack. That's very cool. Tristan Cluck, what disc manufacturers have you found the most success with? Discraft, and now definitely the Latitude 64 stuff. 40 First Side QB. What's your favorite Trilogy disc? Probably the Compass or the Trespass. One of the two. I really like those both. The Fury's working out very nicely for me right now. I'm a big fan of the Gobi so far. The anchors are solid. The Caltrup is great, but I'd have to say Trespass, Compass. Honestly, give me a decent putter, a Trespass, and a Compass. I could probably play most courses with that. I would be lacking on certain shots, but I get pretty close. I get most of the job done with those. Glenn Knight, if you could only have an 8-mold bag, what would it be? 8 molds. Do I have more than 8 molds now? I probably do. Magnets, Compass, Gobi, anchor. That's 4. That would cover me on most shots in those ranges. Then I would do Trespass, Thrasher. Well, I got 2 left. Triple X and Fury. That's what I would knock my bag down to for those 8 molds. I feel like I could get the job done with those for sure. Anthony Galucci, how do you feel about playing with a mixed bag? I did it for a while, found myself playing more consistent with one brand of disc. Thanks again for all the great videos and info. I say throw what works. If a mixed bag is working for you, I see no reason to handicap yourself artificially by just only throwing one company. I do understand that there is something to be said about consistency, and there is something to be said about just kind of having a more pro-style bag. Most pros have a one manufacturer bag, and it does probably help with consistency to some degree. It narrows down your options, so you're not having a lot of overlap and stuff. So that's cool, but really throw whatever works for you. If you feel like you're more consistent with only one brand, and you dig that, go for it. If you want to throw 10, 12 different molds, every single one of them from a different company, do that. I mean, whatever works is fine. But I do understand people who want to have just one brand in their bag. It definitely makes sense to me on some level. And I'm getting a little bit closer to having a full Trilogy bag. I don't think I'm going to kick the magnets out anytime soon. And I still really like the Thrasher, but that's really about it. As far as other stuff that's not Trilogy. I have the Wombat in there, but I'm throwing that thing less and less every round. I haven't thrown it in a few rounds now. Jonathan Cooley, congrats on the 4K subscribers. Know any exercises to strengthen your throw? I have heard flexibility exercises are much more important than strength exercises. I'm sure there are some. I'm not like a fitness guru by any means. I try to make sure I'm stretching before I throw, and if I am able to do a full warm-up and stretch very nicely, I will throw farther with less effort. So I've heard yoga can be very beneficial. It's probably something I'm going to get into soon, is some yoga stretching and that sort of thing. Shout out to another YouTuber, Seth, I believe his name is, from Disc Golf Strong. He has lots of kind of fitness-oriented disc golf videos, and I would definitely go check out his channel. He probably has some information about that sort of stuff. All right. Lucas Overholzer Hess says, how far do you throw? How many aces have you gotten? As far as how far I throw, it's not super far. I don't trust T signs or distances on like Disc Golf Scene or Disc Golf Course Review or whatever. I just feel like those aren't accurate. So I'm really not sure, and I honestly don't really care. I could give you guys a guess, but it doesn't really matter. I throw farther than a lot of the people I see out on the course, and I definitely don't throw as far as some. I throw farther than most of my friends, but I don't throw farther than some. I am pretty accurate and pretty consistent, and I hit the line I'm going for most of the time, and that's what I'm looking for. I will and have beaten players that throw farther than me plenty of times, just based on the fact that I have a stronger short game and I'm more consistent overall. People that throw farther are also more likely to flip things accidentally, or overthrow shots, or just get a little bit more wild. I try to keep very just controlled, smooth lines, and I try to keep the disc on the angle and on the flight that I'm looking for, and that's all I really want. I would love to be able to throw farther. It's something that I work on. I try to dial in my form all the time. I'm not going to throw out numbers, though. I will also say that I think most of the time when somebody tells you how far they throw, they're over-exaggerating it, and sometimes they're over-exaggerating it a lot. Every time I hear somebody on Disc Golf Answer Man saying, oh, I've been playing for 2 months, I'm throwing 450. No, just stop, all right? You're not throwing 450-foot hyzers when you've been throwing for 6 months. I'm just not buying it. Maybe you are, but I really don't think you know what a 450-foot shot truly looks like on a golf line. I have seen those shots, and they're almost incomprehensible for me at my arm speed to the kind of shots that like Will Shoestrick will throw or Paul McBeth will throw, true power throwers, Simon or Eagle or whatever. I'm not buying it. So yeah, I don't know. People they try to make up funny stuff and they're throwing 500 and just like, all right, dude, okay, sure. How many aces have you gotten? I answered that earlier. 3. Uh-oh, might hurt some feelings with that one. What's your bag tag number and club you're with? That question does not apply to me. I'm not in a club. Have no bag tags. What is the one mold you believe you will never take out of your bag, and why does it hold this honor? It probably falls to the magnet. Just come back to it again and again. It just works. The soft magnet has been a staple in my bag forever, and it just works. I can snake it through some trees and get up and down from really tough angles. It putts well. It's a great downhill driver, through the woods, technical shot driver, layup drives where I just need to hit a gap and have it sit down. It's just a solid disc that I've thrown my entire career, and I just don't see myself taking it out of the bag. There are other discs that could replace it, and I have my eye on some of those in case I ever wanted to for some reason. But there's really no reason to. It's just a solid disc. I don't really foresee myself ever being a sponsored player where I need to switch to one brand or the other. So I can throw a mixed bag, and I probably will continue to do so. And I just like magnets. They've always been there for me, and I just always see them being there for some reason. Food Porn Network, congratulations on the subscriptions. I've hit a wall and perhaps gone backwards in my throwing distance. Any tips? Slow it down. Nice and smooth, controlled. Make sure you're reaching back. Don't try to put too much effort into it and try to accelerate right at the last second. Make sure you're not rounding and bringing the disc out and around your body. Make sure you're pulling it on a straight line. Get that elbow out in front. Pull the disc tight to your body and let it come through snapping, and also have a nice smooth follow through. That's about as far as I can go with that for you, man. I definitely recommend checking out Danny Lindahl's channel. In fact, he can probably I think he's a little backed up on it because he's been busy, but you can send him a video of your form. He will watch it and let you know any tips that he might have for you. When are you going to review any of the Tobu discs? Do you think they would be good for beginners since you can track them? All right. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little bit here. This is just for the people that listen to my podcast, which is probably a small percentage of my subscriber base. I did attempt to review a Tobu disc once. The customer service was great. I had good interactions with them. Everything was fine. I just had issues with the first edition kind of beta test of the module connecting to my phone and working the way it was supposed to. And I just had a lot of issues with it, and I declined doing the full review. I will probably go back and review their newer stuff now that they've kind of had time to dial in the technology a little bit. I do still think we're probably still a few years out from having it being truly effective to the point where you can really track it down and have it work great. I know some folks have good experience with them. The plastic felt good. The disc flew nicely. But yeah, I just had a lot of trouble with the module and my particular kind of older smartphone at the time. I have a different smartphone now that might work, but I also did try other smartphones with it and tried to get it dialed in, and I just ran into some issues. So yeah, I think I've heard that the new ones work way better. I have no doubt that they've improved the module as it was an early rendition of it. I will probably go back and review it relatively soon. If you get one and it does work with your phone, which I think it's likely that it will at this point, it could be a good beginner disc. I'm having trouble remembering exactly how it flew. I believe it was the one I tested was pretty straight with a decent fade at the end of it. It was a driver, and for total beginners, I think putters and mid-ranges are better. But it could be a good option considering that you can track it down for like a one driver option for your bag. Sure. But stay tuned to the channel. Maybe I'll reach back out to them, have them send me another one and see what we can figure out. But I like the idea, and I think they were solid. Like I said, all the interactions that I had with them were good. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I just don't think the technology was quite ready for what they were trying to do, and I'm sure it's much better now. Vengeful says, what is your favorite tournament of the year? Beaver State Fling out at Milo MacGyver State Park. I go every year. It's a great event. It's extremely fun to watch. See some amazing throws out there and great battles. This year, going down to the playoff with Ricky and Paul. Ricky taking it down. Really great. Great final round. A lot of fun, and I love that. It's a staple of my year. I always make sure that I have the time off to go watch at least the final round. CM says, do you use rollers in your game? More often, I'll throw a forehand roller. There's certain shots where a forehand roller works well, especially get out of trouble shots. Or if I need something to kind of finish around the corner. I've had some trouble with them lately, and it's not a high percentage shot for me at all. It's more if I have to use it. Backhand rollers, I'm pretty bad at, and I don't use very often. Occasionally I'll throw one, and I kind of understand them, but I find them really inconsistent. And I don't have a great form for that because it's like a strong Anheuser release, and that's not really my strength. So I don't use a lot of rollers, but occasionally I'll throw a backhand roller as a goof. More often than not, if I'm using a roller in a semi-competitive round or if I'm keeping score or whatever, it will be a forehand roller of some kind. The only time I've ever gotten a birdie with a roller, it was a forehand roller out at Mile and MacGyver on a shot that almost all the pros throw forehand rollers on to. I forget which one it is. It's early in the round, though. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like hole 6 or something like that, right before you come back out into the field for that big Heiser shot hole. Troy Stockard, if you can only throw one disc, what would it be? I've answered that in multiple of these Q&As. Jonathan Hernandez, what's your dream sponsorship? Wow, sponsorship. If I had to pick a team to be sponsored by, and I have thought about it, although it's completely unlikely that would ever happen. There's no real reason for it, and there's definitely no reason for a manufacturer to say, hey, let's go sponsor this guy who's reviewed more plastic from more different manufacturers than anybody else in the world and promoted all kinds of different companies. Well, let's go sponsor him for our company, especially considering that I'm not going to I don't have any plans to stop doing what I'm doing with the reviews. It could happen if somebody came to me and wanted me to take on some type of professional role in the disc golf community where I could make a living working and doing stuff that I love and promoting disc golf in some fashion. Sure, that could happen, and I would love that. If I had to pick, it would undoubtedly be Latitude 64, Dynamic Discs, or Discraft, one of the three. But Dynamic Disc seems to be a really wonderful, like, family type vibe, and I like a lot of the people that are already on the team and stuff, and I like to think I kind of have friends on the team, like me and Anthony, or I kind of know Anthony. I kind of consider him a friend. We don't know each other very well, but we work together. I'm always bugging him about stuff about DD now, since he's there at the warehouse every day. I text him about stuff all the time. But yeah, I like all those guys over there, and I think DD would be a really great team to be a part of. But Latitude, being on the same team as my favorite player and being able to throw all that great plastic just the same would be wonderful as well. But that being said, if Discraft was like, hey, you want to run some media, do some media stuff for us and whatever, I'm not sure I'm really equipped for that. I'm sure I could learn it, and I need to put together an all Discraft bag again. It would be no problem whatsoever. I know exactly what I would get. I could go back to the bag I used to throw with a couple of variations and be quite happy with that as well. So really no real strong preference out of those three, but it's, again, almost guaranteed I will never be a sponsored disc golfer of any kind, but you never know what could happen. Keith, Colorado, which company is your favorite manufacturer? Currently, it would be Latitude 64 or Discraft. Overall, throughout my career, Discraft has been really good for me, and the plastic works really well. Let's see. Should I just go? I'm just going to go deep with this one. We're looking at an hour, but I don't have that many to go, so I'm just going to keep rolling. Ty Lockwood, congrats on 4K. How did you figure out what putter to stick with for putting? I've tried so many different putters, and I've had a lot of different issues with dialing it in, and like I used to carry multiple putters without really knowing which one was my go-to at that time, and I would switch back and forth during the rounds and stuff, and it caused me a lot of grief, a lot of issues. So when I started testing the Jawbreaker Magnet, it was already a mold that I really liked, and I was putting so well with them, I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy a bunch of backups of these, so I have them laying around, and I have no excuses to switch away from them. I'd have to sell like all of these to get different stuff if I'm going to switch. And I'm just going to buy several backups. I'm going to stick them in there, and I'm not going to switch. Unless unless for some reason I did end up on a team and couldn't throw Discraft anymore for some reason, which, again, is almost completely not going to happen. But other than that, I'm going to continue trying to use these Jawbreakers forever. I like the feel, and they just work really well. Maybe Discraft will stop making them or something. I'll have to switch eventually. But I have several backups already, and the one I have is still in good shape, and I think will still be solid for another few years at least. So, yeah, I just decided I can't keep doing this. I can't keep switching it up all the time and blaming the putter for my lack of consistency. I need to stick with one putter, learn that putter inside out, and make sure my form is working correctly and not worry about trying to switch the disc for that roll. That's something I've been doing across the board where I'm just like, I have access to a lot of different plastic, but I need to just keep it dialed in. Unless something I test really stands out as filling a void in my bag or is better than something I'm currently throwing, it's unlikely to make its way into my bag, but it does still happen. I've added new molds relatively recently, and I think that's going to keep happening, but I'm going to try really hard to stick with those Jawbreakers and just keep my form consistent. Water break. Grzelzinski 13. I highly doubt that's the correct way to pronounce that, but I tried. What was your favorite pro player to watch? I like Eagle McMahon. Young people can sometimes just pull off ridiculous shots. Yeah, I agree. Eagle's really fun to watch. Simon's really fun to watch. Big Germ, Paul McBeth, Nate Doss. One of my favorite things about watching disc golf is watching the difference in the players and having a good blend of different approaches to the game and having it all work. All these guys have very distinct form things or aspects to their form. They have very distinct kind of ways of attacking the course, and I like watching all of them interact on the course. That's really what I like to watch. But my favorite player is Ricky Wysocki, and there's really not so much a close second, but I would say Big Germ. After that, I really like watching Germ throw. He's really smooth and effortless, and he's just fun to watch. He's entertaining out there, and I dig it. Mr. D-Rock. What is your favorite Portland metro area disc golf course and why? Damn, D-Rock, come on, dog. That's going to be hard for me to say. There's way too many good courses out here. But I have to say Milo MacGyver is my favorite overall just based on the fact that it's got it all. It's got elevation, flat, long, short, wooded, open, technical, bomber. It's got everything. So in one course, it's also got the river there. I had my work employee camping trip out at Milo this last Monday, and we went swam in Estacada Lake, and the forest is beautiful, and it was awesome. We threw a couple of discs and had a great time out there. So Milo's just amazing. It's got everything you need. You can go take a nice dip in the river afterwards, and it's got everything I need, and it's probably overall the best course in the area, but I love so many of them. Dabney's great, even though it still kicks my ass now and again, and Stub Stewart is amazing. Buxton is great. Horning's Hideout is tremendous. I do have a top 10 favorite courses podcast, by the way, and they're all in the Portland area, so you might want to go check that out for more opinions on my favorite courses. All right, Mr. D-Rock's got some more questions. What is your greatest feeling you get while playing on the course, as in best memory or moment from the round? Puring the shot is my favorite thing. If it goes in the basket, that's just bonus. And, if I throw the shot just how I want it to and it finishes in the bucket, that's amazing. It's really only happened once. The other times I was just kind of throwing and hoping, and it went in. The first one for sure. The second one, like I described earlier, I was trying to throw it straight at it. It went smooth hyzer through a different gap, but still went in. But yeah, just puring the line. When I release where I want it to, it stands up exactly as I want it to, flies on the line I want, finishes right to the basket, skips up, maybe hits the pole. That's the feeling I'm looking for every time I get out there on the course. That's what keeps me coming back, is those pure lines. Every time I throw the disc exactly how I want to, I give that solid single golf clap, and I'm stoked. That's what I'm hunting that feeling every time I go out there. What would be your signature disc? Mine would have to be a Pro T-Bird Champ Gator. Those two get the most out of the course. I don't imagine there's going to be a signature magnet anytime soon, but I think that would make the most sense for me. Either that or the Trespass. Dynamic Disc Trespass Signature edition, that would be rad. That's a great disc, and I think that would be awesome. JPAL3, have you been playing many PDGA tournaments? Nope, haven't played any. In fact, I don't really consider myself that kind of a player. I'm much more of a casual player. I just dig it. I like just getting out and throwing lines. I could get into that eventually. I probably will, but it's just a lot of money. Tournament fees are a lot of money. A lot of the PDGA events that take place out here are multi-day as well. Trying to get 2 days in a row to just spend doing nothing but playing disc golf for me is kind of difficult. And I'm not sure I really want to do that all that often. To go out and play 2 hard competitive rounds back-to-back days for an entire weekend like that. Sure, it's probably fun, and I will probably do it eventually, but it's just not something I ever got into. It's like getting together with friends and getting out there and having fun. What amount of tournaments a year justifies paying for a PDGA membership? If it's less than 5, is it worth it? I mean, you could really only answer that yourself. This one's from Bronson Minton. You can really only answer that for yourself, Bronson. I mean, do you want to just have your PDGA membership to support the PDGA and what they do? I should probably have that, and probably some of you would assume I do, and I don't have a PDGA number or membership. Again, getting back to the fact that I don't play PDGA events, so I've just never spent the money on it. I should though. I should lock in a number at least and get into that sort of thing. But I mean, are you gonna play more than 5 events? If you're only gonna play 4, it's not that different. You're kicking another $10 for PDGA and all the effort they put in out there. If you're a tournament player at all, I think it's worth having. And even if you're just a big fan of disc golf and you just want to show love and support for your game, it might not be the worst thing to just be a member in general if you have the money for it. For me, I used to spend so much money on plastic and stuff to keep the ball rolling with reviews and whatever that I never wanted to spend that money on the membership. That may be hypocritical, and I fully understand that. And I am a little bit self-conscious about the fact that I've never been a PDGA member, even though I've spent so much time and working on things like this channel that are disc golf related. But at the same time, I'm not a tournament player, so it would really just be kind of a ceremonial number. And for me at this point, so it could happen soon. So yeah, you really can only answer that for yourself. But the reason he says, just if anybody's wondering, the reason he says is that if you play less than 5, is it worth it? Is because if you play PDGA events, B tiers and C tiers, I believe you don't have to be a PDGA member. You just have to pay a $10 fee. So the membership's about $50. So if you play 5 of those events, you pay the $10. You might as well just got the membership and avoid the fees. I think that's what he's mentioning. All right. Getting close. The voice is starting to dry out. I'm getting hoarse. It's been a lot of talking. We'll see where we're at. I'm going to just power through here. Not too long. Marcus Pennington, how long does your typical 18-hole round last? Thank you for helping building our disc golf community. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. Hard to say. Couple hours, maybe? Maybe 2 hours or so, depending on the course, I guess, depending on how many times we sit down and chill and kind of take a breather, which doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. It depends on if we decide to take a dip at the river in the middle of the round or something like that. You never really know. But yeah, a few hours or so. Barbarian 52, which I believe is that Tyler? Tyler Helmke? Could be another Barbarian Stronghold member. I recognize the little symbol. How and why should people fight their anxieties for first time playing leagues or tournaments? Well, I can see that being rough. If you have anxiety issues and maybe you have social issues, kind of getting on a card with people you don't know and throwing with strangers and stuff can be kind of weird. I can get it. I definitely understand. But I think you'll find most of the people you're going to end up playing with at leagues and tournaments and stuff like that should be pretty cool. If you get grouped up with some people that are less than cool, that's just kind of the luck of the draw, I guess. I haven't had any big issues. I think I played a couple of leagues and a couple of casual events. The casual tournaments I played, the MVP circuit event and the ace races and stuff, those are much more casual, fun events, and I've had a great time with that. I've met some great people, and it's been really fun. Solid people that I've run into again and said hi, and so that's been no issue. I played a league once where most of the guys were real cool. One guy was a little was a little rough, but whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, I guess it's up to you. If you really want to get out there and play leagues and play tournaments, you just kind of get out there and do it. See what happens. If you have a really bad time, you can kind of adjust your feeling on it from there, and maybe you don't do it again, or maybe you just wait to sign up for events where you can sign up with friends or folks that you know. But I think it's worth it to kind of break out of your comfort zone a little bit, play with some other players. You can learn stuff from other players for sure, and you can also see where your strengths are as it kind of compares to the other players on the card and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of that can be really beneficial. And who knows, you might meet your new best friend and favorite person to get out there and play with. Buggist1, what color disc do you recommend for playing on courses with high rough grass? Like Blue Lake, I mean, throw whatever you want. Blue Lake, you're going to lose it if it goes in that grass, man. The grass is awful. Generally, pink, bright pink, but maybe even like some darker colors might be good for grass. Like a royal blue might stand out against the grass a little better. I mean, it's so hard to say with that high grass. It's just the worst. That's why I don't play Blue Lake very often. Going back to a question earlier about Portland metro area courses, on my top 10 favorite courses, Blue Lake's not on there. And it's because every time I go there, we lose plastic. Because the entire back nine is nothing but blackberries and tall grass. And even if you have an idea of where you think you might have went out, you could walk past your disc 3 times, just not even seeing it, just tucked in the thick, tall grass and blackberries. It's just really rough, so I feel for you. I don't know. Bright colors, pink, and maybe bright blues. Maybe red would stand out good. Orange would probably be okay. Yellow and any kind of green would be awful, I would think. But good luck, man. I can't stand that high grass rough. I try to stay away from courses that have that, really. Ryan Pilcher, what's your favorite disc in your collection? In my collection, it'll probably be some of my Ricky Wysocki signature compasses. I have a whole bunch. I have 2 more coming. I'll probably do a video showing off my whole compass collection coming up soon, because I have a whole bunch of them. I think it'll be a fun, just goofy video on the side. I'm quite fond of my new custom stamps. I have a couple of them that I'm holding on to now that are really surreal. To see my Disc Golf Nerd Stamp custom disc is really cool. But yeah, favorite disc in my collection. That's hard to say. In terms of throwers or collectors, that's a tricky one. I'd have to really think about that to narrow it down. But probably one of I have a couple of pre-World Champion compasses. I have 2 that are signed by Ricky. That would probably be up there for me. Joe Johnson, what kind of off-season training do you recommend? I live in the snow belt, so most winters it is tough getting onto the course and throwing. I would recommend putting, even if it's indoors, even if it's short range. If you can jam those 15-footers, you're going to build confidence, and that's a good thing to do. Stretching and all that kind of just staying loose is definitely a good idea as well. Maybe you have like a basement where you could set up like a sheet or a net and you could throw some shots into it to kind of keep your body used to that form. That could be something you could do. Also look into see if it maybe somewhere in your area there is like a indoor soccer field or something like that you could throw on. Maybe there's like an off hours kind of open gym or something like that where you could throw some discs, or maybe even just kind of throw a catch disc around in like a school gym or something like that to kind of keep your body moving and throwing. Or putting leagues. A lot of guys around the country, guys and girls around the country, get into indoor putting leagues in the wintertime, maybe at like a brewery or a YMCA or elementary school gym or something along those lines. That could be a great way to keep throwing while you're kind of snowed in there. I feel you though. I feel your pain. We had a really rough. It's nothing compared to probably where you live, but here in Portland, we got snowed in a couple of times really severely, and the difference is we don't really have plows and salt trucks and stuff, so we just kind of hope for the best. It's the dumbest thing in the world. They just kind of hope we don't get snow, because it's really rare anyway. But last year we got whacked with a bunch of snow, and the roads were just undrivable for the most part for like over a week. It was just horrendous out there. And I didn't throw a disc. I didn't do anything. I was just in the house chilling, playing video games and looking at my plastic, and yeah, it's kind of rough. Another thing you can do, I've heard that visualizing is still effective. You can hold your disc, kind of go through your X step, and just kind of move through the motions, visualize that disc flying on the line you want it to. Still could be a beneficial thing mentally for your confidence out there on the course. There's a pretty decent amount of evidence I've heard to substantiate claims that visualizing successful putts and visualizing successful throws can actually truly benefit your ability to throw them. I don't know. I have to do more research to know for sure. But yeah, for me this winter, I have a garage now, and I'm definitely getting a basket. I will definitely be doing some short indoor garage putting. I got to do that this year. Nick S., good job. What are some things you've learned over the years about disc golf that you wish you'd known earlier in your disc golf hobby? Well, that's a good one. A lot of those things that I wish I knew earlier are the things that I teach here. The strategy stuff, the kind of disc selection stuff, the difference between understable and overstable, and all the different stuff that is available in my disc golf tips and information playlist. That's all the kind of stuff that I wish I knew, and that's why I made the videos. That was my motivation for making those videos, was to help people learn that kind of stuff, and kind of skip ahead to the part of the experience where you start to understand what you're doing out there with your throw and with the game, why your discs are flying the way they're flying, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's definitely the motivation for building that. So if you want to go check out that playlist, all the information in there was all the stuff that I wish somebody would have told me, or once somebody did tell me, I wanted to help spread that out to the rest of the community. So thank you for your question. And final one. Damn, this has been fun. I had 3 full episodes of answering awesome questions from you guys. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll do another giveaway like this eventually where I got to submit some more questions. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more interesting where if it's a question I've answered multiple times, you're ineligible or something like that to kind of spice it up a little bit. We'll see. Rocker334, who is your favorite pro to watch and why? Here we go. Answering the same one again. It's Ricky Wysocki. He's my favorite player. I love his form. I love his intensity on the course. His putting is insane. I just love watching him jam an 80-footer and then make the rest of his card mates 30-footer way more pressure-filled and have them doink little 25-footers after he just jammed in a 65-footer. I love that stuff. It's great. When he's on, and you could say this for a lot of different golfers, including Paul McBeth and, other players, that when they're really playing up to their full potential, they're almost unstoppable. But when Ricky's really dialed in, he is a force of nature. He just destroying players and breaking hearts with his amazing putting. I love watching it. I love all you guys as well. Big thank you for coming along for the ride, listening to me ramble through all these questions. I had a great time with this. I feel like, even though it was an hour and 20 minutes, I feel like I talked a lot in that time. But I appreciate all of your support. Big thank you to everybody who continues to subscribe to the channel and all the likes, all the comments, all the messages of encouragement. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate the feedback, all that stuff. You guys are great. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for listening to me ramble about plastic. If you guys have any more questions for me, always feel free to hit me up, whether at my email address, discraftandinova@gmail.com. Send me a personal message on Facebook, Instagram. You'll find me on there. I'm very receptive to messages. I'll get back to you, even if you just want to chat about something. Hit me up. I'm often bored, and I'll talk plastic with whoever. I appreciate all of your support. Each and every one of you guys are just great. I feel like I've really been blessed and built a really solid community around my channel here. You guys are awesome. A lot of positivity, and I appreciate all of it. So thanks so much for your time. I will check you guys later. Cheers.